From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Welcome to the main reading room at the Library of Congress. You know the fancy-looking room down there with the marble columns and the bronze statues? That's us. For most visitors to the library, they see us from above, but the only thing keeping you up here, instead of down here, is this. While the library's founding purpose is to serve Congress, its amazing resources are here for all of us. Regardless of what your interests are, say you want to research Byzantine art or read that Goosebumps novel that gave you nightmares when you were 7, all you need is to be 16 or older and a little bit curious. Well, we have 19 other specialized reading rooms in the library. For most researchers, everyone from published authors to first-time visitors, this is where they start. This room is the gateway to what is basically the world's largest collection of interesting information. Reference collections in the main reading room alone consist of over 66,000 volumes, and our Computer Catalog Center provides access to our collections and over 800 databases, around 600 of which can only be used here at the library. But some may still wonder, why bother? Why come to DC, figure out the metro, get a reader ID, and find your way to the main reading room, when you could stay at home with your computer or go to the local library? The fact is that even in the age of search engines, databases, and digitization, there are plenty of reasons to experience being here. Here's your first reason. If you want it, chances are we have it. While it's not true that we have a copy of every book ever published, the odds are, if it's culturally significant and useful for research, we have it. As I said, the main reading room is essentially the gateway to discovering the 150 million items within the entire library's collections. We might not have everything right here, but this is the best place to find out what we do have. Every year, over 1 million items are circulated within the library at large, and each day, 10,000 new items are added to the collections. Here's your second reason: librarians. Our main reading room is staffed by librarians who probably know how to find things better than you do. It's their job, and trust me, they're good at it.
Sometimes people are doing long-term research on something really in-depth, and sometimes they just want to know the answer to something that's been bugging them. Someone was looking for monasteries that brew beer. Someone else was doing research on religious tracts during the Civil War period. I've had a patron who was looking for the first North American host of a Santa Claus parade.
But I've also had a chance to identify some really wonderful objects for people, such as a fire screen that turned out to be painted by the French painter Fragonard, which was really exciting, an Art Nouveau necklace made in Scotland. So I get to see pictures of really beautiful objects and help people with trying to identify maybe a maker or some information about it.
I love especially working with historical novelists. There are quite a few who do research here for their books. And questions like, was a whale ever stranded in the Thames River in the 17th century? You know, can you find any proof of that?
A lot of the questions that I receive tend to be more about women's history, which, you know, dovetails nicely with women's studies, but they do tend to be questions like, where can I find out what life was like for a woman in this particular era? There's also questions like, who was the first woman to do some particular feat, or about American women politicians.
If we're at the reference desk, then of course we're answering questions of all types. If there is a British question that my colleagues don't feel comfortable with, then they will call me and I'll come down then and deal with the question. Most of the time that's with British government publications that they're uncomfortable with, so I usually deal with those.
Our librarians represent some of the premier experts in their fields, and many have specialized degrees in their area of interest. That being said, our librarians in the main reading room are also generalists, which means that their primary focus is just figuring stuff out. They are pros at sifting through the information overload and helping you find a starting point.
If you want to make the best use of your time, I'd say always talk to a reference librarian, because the place is confusing and they can direct you to the best resources.
We do a lot of referrals here, so oftentimes when people contact me, they're really asking what are the next steps I should take in my research. So I will refer people to the National Archive, other libraries that I'm familiar with, but also the collections here are so rich and the materials come together in such a wonderful way to expand on your research, to draw people into those collections is really exciting for me too.
There's no predicting what's going to come in, but it's all fun, and usually we have stuff on it. That's the fun part of working at the Library of Congress. No matter what they ask, I figure it's here somewhere.
Last year alone, the Library of Congress took on over 500,000 reference requests, some in person and some through the Ask a Librarian feature on our website. So if you have any questions, they would be more than happy to help you find an answer. Really, just ask. Here's your third reason. It's not all on the internet. There's a common misconception these days that everything can be accessed online easily and free of charge. However, this isn't quite true.
The fact that it's electronic does not mean that it's free on the internet. Most of the best electronic stuff is in these subscription databases, which you cannot tap into remotely. You've got to be here.
So for users that are on site, we provide access to lots of different databases. I think currently there are over 600 that we subscribe to. Some of these are things like encyclopedias or directories. We also have a lot of databases that are more scholarly in nature. Sometimes they're citation indexes, which can be really useful for scholars to sort of trace like who cited this particular paper. And we also have lots of newspaper databases, and some of those are historical, going back, to the colonial era in American history. And also some databases allow you to access current news.
It is also true that despite efforts to digitize library collections, there are so many books that are not available in their entirety online, and even more haven't been digitized at all.
Oh, we have a ton of stuff here that they cannot get on the internet. Most of the books published in the 20th century after 1923 are not digitized by Google or anybody else. If you want to actually read the full text of the books after 1923 and get more of them in one place, that's here. Most of the journals that we have, I suspect, are not digitized. We're the only library that has a full set of American doctoral dissertations. They're not digitized for free distribution on the internet because of copyright restrictions. If you want to actually read the full text of the books after 1923 and get more of them in one place, that's here, because they're not online. They're not digitized by anybody.
So there you have it, 3 great reasons to visit the main reading room at the Library of Congress. I promise you there are many, many more. If you would like to plan your visit, check out our online collections, or take a look at our page for researchers, just visit our website. There you will also find information about free research orientations and other workshops. We're always open during regular business hours, as well as 3 evenings a week and Saturdays. So stop by, get registered as a reader, and come spend some time at the Library of Congress. Be curious, be inspired.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.